If you're experiencing physical symptoms, if you're getting scary, intrusive, obsessive thoughts, feelings of unreality like depersonalization, derealization, the weird emotions like feelings of sadness or a sense of impending doom, you may notice that your symptoms are the most intense in the morning. And even if you feel fine in the evening, you'll notice the next day you wake up and you feel like you got hit by a truck. All your symptoms come back and you wonder, is this something I'm always gonna have to wake up to? Is this something that I'm always gonna be experiencing every morning? And it might even try to convince you that there's something seriously wrong with you. Well, in this video, I wanna explain to you how morning anxiety works and why you experience your most intense symptoms in the morning. And more importantly, by the end of the video, I'll show you what to do to make this go away so that you could wake up feeling totally normal, fine, back to how you used to, and not really deal with these symptoms long term. So let's get started. So the way I fell into the anxiety cycle was by having a panic attack. And what happened was that after those panic attacks, I actually got one and then I ended up getting more because I got terrified of having a panic attack. So you can only imagine what happened. I ended up naturally getting more panic attacks because nobody had explained to me what was going on. And then what happened was that there would be times where I would experience panic attacks, and then once the adrenaline burned itself off, I was like, okay, well, I'm clear, I'm fine. And then what would happen is the next morning I would wake up and I would wake up with heart palpitations. I'd get really nauseous. My stomach would be really upset. I'd be waking up sweating, or I may even be having very intrusive thoughts like, oh my God, this is back. What if I never get better? And I remember I would wake up every morning and no matter how I slept the night before, it was just like all these symptoms came in. And it made me think that there's something seriously wrong. I never woke up like this. I used to wake up just fine like everybody else. But I would wake up almost like in this jolt and like this zap feeling. And it made me think that, okay, no, there's something seriously wrong. And that's what started my health anxiety journey, because I truly thought that there was something physically wrong with me. And you might be going through that with your anxiety journey too. You may notice that you're going through this cyclical pattern where you're experiencing the most intense symptoms in the morning and throughout the day. Now, as I'm guiding people through overcoming this and having them go back to living, I would say at this point, maybe about 70% of people that I meet really experience morning anxiety. There is a small subset of people that experience anxiety in the evening, and there's some people that experience anxiety all the time, or it's on and off and it's not really cyclical. But I noticed 70% of people experience morning anxiety. And so you may be wondering, why is this happening? Why are you experiencing such intense symptoms, and what should you do to make it go away? Well, before we talk about how to make it go away, it's important to understand why it's happening. And one of the most important things to understand is your nervous system. And the reason why it's important to understand your nervous system is because one of the hormones that plays a huge factor into why you're experiencing these symptoms is cortisol. Now, everybody has cortisol and everybody has different cycles of cortisol throughout the day, meaning your cortisol spikes the highest in the morning. Okay? Now, cortisol is a stress hormone. It has a lot of functions, but we're gonna simplify what cortisol does for the sake of anxiety recovery. Now, what's the purpose of having a cortisol spike in the morning? Okay, now the reason why you have a cortisol spike in the morning is because it helps you wake up and it makes you start your day. See, everybody has a cortisol spike in the morning, whether you have anxiety or not. And it's really designed to help you get out of bed, because if you didn't have that spike, we would all be sleeping all day. There would be no incentive to wake up. So what the cortisol spike does is that it wakes you up. It helps you get out of bed. It helps you start your day. It helps you get motivated to do things throughout the day. So it's important to understand that cortisol has a good function, and There's a reason for why it happens. Now, you may be wondering, okay, fine, I used to have cortisol and used to wake me up in the morning, but now I'm experiencing intense symptoms. Is my cortisol levels higher? Well, that's not actually the case. See, what happens is that because you're in this anxiety cycle, what that means is that your nervous system has become very sensitive. And what I mean by it being sensitive is that small stressors will cause your nervous system to overreact. Basic things that were really effortless for you at one point and stressors that were almost meaningless are now becoming very intense, meaning your body and mind is overreacting to this. Now, you might not just experience this in morning anxiety, but you might notice you were enjoying coffee before you fell into the cycle, and now you just take a sip of coffee and your heart starts palpitating. Or you may notice that with the pre-workout. Or you may notice small things like going to the grocery store, which was very relaxing for you, now seem like this scary task, and it feels like what happens if you can't run away, and even driving can become difficult. Right? So the key to understand is that you have this nervous system that's designed to handle stress. But because you're in the cycle, what happens is that your nervous system has become very sensitive. And so one of the consequences of that is that when you have the cortisol spike in the morning, well, your nervous system overreacts. Rather than just getting up and waking up normally, like just easing your way into the day, what it does is that it causes your nervous system to overreact. Now again, there's a function for why your nervous system is sensitized. It's designed to protect you from threats. And if you were in a situation where your life was in danger, you would want your body to wake up this way. Because what happens if a tiger came at you while you're sleeping? You want to be alert and ready to go. But here's the thing, you're probably just at home with the air conditioner on a comfortable bed. There's no threat, but you're still experiencing this. And because you're experiencing this in a situation where you're safe, you may feel like, well, why is that happening? There must be something wrong. Again, it's just your nervous system is very sensitive at the moment and your body is overreacting. A good analogy I like to give is imagine if you have like a cut on your arm. Yeah? And imagine if you put salt on your arm when you have a cut. You'll notice that it will sting, that you will feel like a burning sensation. Now, what's the issue? Is it because you're putting salt? Is salt the issue? It's not the salt. What it is that you have a cut on your arm. And that's kind of the same with morning anxiety. See, it's not the cortisol spike that's the problem, but the problem is that your nervous system is sensitized. So because it's sensitized, whenever you throw in a little bit of cortisol, or in this case, the example I'm giving is salt, well, you notice that there's some agitation, and your nervous system doesn't like that. So again, the issue isn't the cortisol spike. The issue is the fact that your nervous system is sensitized. And so how do you overcome that? How do you desensitize your nerves? Well, the first thing to understand is that what you're experiencing is normal. It's fine. I know it's uncomfortable, but you're not broken. There's nothing abnormal happening. Your body's functioning exactly how it should. Now, this should bring you some comfort. This should make you feel at least a little bit at ease where, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. But you may also be going into the second part, which is, okay, but what do I do to get this better? What do I do to get this better? Well, before you even get there, it's really important to understand more about how the nervous system works. See, the nervous system is a little bit more complicated than just saying there's excess adrenaline and there's a cortisol spike. It's really important to understand the mechanics of anxiety. And if you're trying to focus too much on what do I do, well, it's that compulsive doing something about it that's keeping you in the cycle. Let me repeat. One of the reasons why you might be in the cycle is because you're compulsively trying to do something to make this go away without understanding what's happening. See, people are trying to overcome their morning anxiety, but then what I'll do is I'll ask them, why are you experiencing morning anxiety? And they don't know. So it's very hard to fix something when you don't know what the problem is. So before you focus on trying to fix this, it's very important for you to take a step back and understand why this is happening. And if you really want to know why this is happening, how the mechanics of anxiety work, how to really focus on the solution, I've written a free ebook. The link is down below. You can download it. You just put in your email and it will get sent to your email address. It's something I wish I would have had in my journey, and if somebody could have just explained it, it would have clarified a lot of things. So the link is down below. It really breaks down the mechanics of anxiety, how to respond, and what to expect on your recovery journey. So now you know the fact that this is caused by a cortisol spike. Now, does that mean that the anxiety goes away? No. You're still going to be experiencing the symptoms, but now at least you understand what's happening. So what do you do to overcome it? What do you do to make sure this goes away? Well, the first thing you need to do is recognize that morning anxiety is going to be there a little bit longer. It's just going to be. And you trying to speed up the process and trying to find ways to make the anxiety go away, again, is one of the reasons why it's staying alive. If you're running away from something, even if that's a symptom, your nervous system is going to think that there's still a threat. So recognize that you're still going to be having morning anxiety for a bit. And here's what I would say, and here's what I did during my journey, because I would wake up with terrible morning anxiety, and when I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to stay at home. I wanted to Google search my symptoms. I wanted to go to doctors. I wanted to do more medical tests, because if I could just figure out what was happening, I could hopefully try to do something to make this go away. And the problem was that never worked. All it did was it kept me in the cycle longer. So what I would recommend is accept that you're experiencing the symptoms right now and continue your day with the symptoms there side by side. Now, I know what you're saying, Shaan, these symptoms are very debilitating. They're very difficult. It's very hard to do that. But you still have to realize that what's happening is that your nervous system is sensitized. And the way out of this long-term freedom is by not fighting it or resisting it. There's really no way around it. You have to allow it to be there, and you just continue on with your day. What I noticed over time was that my morning anxiety would hit me super early in the morning, and sometimes it would start disappearing around maybe 5 or 6 p.m. But as I continued on living and letting the symptoms be there and let the adrenaline burning itself off, what I noticed is that instead of 5 p.m., it would probably go away by 3 p.m. and I started feeling better around 3 p.m. And then I would just continue on my day, and weeks would go by, and what I would notice is that my symptoms would go away not at 3 p.m. but at 1 p.m. And then I would let more time go by and I was correctly responding, and then instead of 1 p.m. it would end at 11 a.m. And over time what happened was that my morning anxiety went away on its own. The symptoms that came with it disappeared on their own. So I hope this clarifies a little bit about why you experience morning anxiety. The truth is, when it comes to recovery, there's a lot of components. It's not just morning anxiety. Even if that's what you're experiencing right now, recovery is about unlayering a lot of things. And so what I've found is, instead of trying to piecemeal your recovery and trying to figure it out along the way, one of the best things you can do is find somebody who's overcome this and have them guide you through the journey. Rather than trying to figure it out on your own and dealing with the frustrations of trying to figure this out, I've always found the most seamless, most effective, and least painful way is just by having somebody that you trust guide you through the journey and guide you through each step. Because the truth is that as you're getting better, you'll hit different obstacles. And also, if you get stuck somewhere, it's really hard for you to identify what's happening and why you're stuck, because you're too close to the problem. You're not objective enough to know exactly where things are going wrong, and you're in this haze of anxiety. So what I always recommend is find somebody who's gone through this to guide you through the journey and really focus on long-term freedom, because the biggest thing about anxiety recovery is recovering quickly and going back to living as quickly as possible and letting go of the subject. So if you want that to be me, you want that to be me and my team, that's all we do. We help people around the world fully overcome this, go back to living. You can click the link down below for mentorship. This is where we'll guide you step by step along the way, and you will be putting in the work, but we'll be making sure that you're doing things correctly. And we also want to see and make sure you're doing things right as well. So the link is down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.